Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Darrell Owens, a.k.a. that guy that used to do TV commercials. But that's all besides the point. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of One-on-One, the Christmas edition of One-on-One here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network, and, of course, airing on the amazing Bowie television. Look, we are so excited. We are coming to you early today. Why? Because we got 3 football games happening today. Your boy is about time that this airs is currently at is currently at Northwest Stadium. I'm recording this early in the morning, and I'm about to hit the road to the game. So I wanted to make sure I bring this all to you now. This will be airing, or as you can tell, is 11 o'clock now, and so I just wanted to be able to bring this to you. And 11 o'clock on Legacy, 11:30 on Bowie TV. But anyway, with all that being said, your boy's currently at the stadium, but we do have 3 games today. We got the Cowboys taking on the Commanders, Christmas Day game on Netflix. Then the second Netflix game will be the Lions taking on the Vikings. So that's going to be a really interesting one. There's a lot on the line in that one for multiple reasons. But the Lions and the Vikings are in the mix in that one. That's in Minnesota. Max Browser will be the starter for the Vikings. JJ McCarthy's down. Look, the Lions need a win because the Lions have to make the playoffs. If they want to make the playoffs, they have to win. They lose, they're out. The Packers get in. That's as simple as it gets. Then in the 8 o'clock game on Prime, you got the Broncos taking on the Chiefs. That's an 8:15 game. The Chiefs, I can't even say the starter for the Chiefs' name. He's the third string guy. I think it's like Odowandone. I could be destroying that, but he's taking on Bo Nix and the Broncos, who are still looking to solidify the number 1 seed in the AFC. So there's still a lot on the line here for various reasons. Cowboys, Commanders, Dak's playing, but like we got 3 teams that are not in the mix. They don't have their starters. Some second string, some of them third string. Actually, all of them are third string. Josh Johnson's a third string, for the Vikings. Browser technically the third string. They had Wentz. He was the number 2 guy. And now you got Oldwayne. I think it's like Oldwayne. I could be destroying that. And I apologize now for the Chiefs. So it's a day where you look at it and say the teams that are favored should win those games. They should win those games, but we'll see. But that's what we have going on. I done got enough explaining out of the way. We got to get you set for week 17, the outside looking in, the bottom, the top 10, the finale, all that fun stuff. Who are the gridiron, our kings of the gridiron for last week? We got to get into all of that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start episode 195 of 101 now on the Legacy Maker Sports Network and, of course, airing on the amazing Bowie television. Let's go.
One. Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to One-on-One at Legacy Maker Sports Network.
Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Our Christmas edition of 101 here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network and Bowie Television. A lot to get into. Currently, at the time this is airing, we are 2 hours away from Commanders and Cowboys to start off the Christmas Day games. We also have a lot of basketball action today. Now, don't give me the line. I'll give y'all a quick vision on what we got basketball-wise today. We got the Cavaliers and Knicks. That's the 12 o'clock game. You got Spurs and Thunder facing off again. Spurs have beaten the Thunder twice so far this season, and the Thunder have only lost 4 games. So the Spurs with a little bit of advantage. That could be a potential Western Conference final matchup down the road. That's a 2:30 game. At 5 o'clock, you got the Mavericks and the Warriors. So that's Klay Thompson going up against Steph Curry, the former teammates. That's a 5 o'clock game. 8 o'clock game, Lakers and Rockets. And then to finish things off, you got the Nuggets and the Timberwolves at 10:30. So Christmas, that's usually the NBA's day. The NFL the last couple of years have come in and say, look, the NBA, we know that you care about this day, but we're coming to take it. And that's just pretty much what the NFL has done for the last couple of seasons. Now, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Let's start off with the bottom. So, the bottom. New bottom team this week. The last couple of weeks, it's been the Tennessee Titans, but we have a new bottom. The Tennessee Titans won last week. They have moved up a little bit. But our new bottom team, the Vegas Raiders, 2-13. And, look, they do have a solid win over the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed, I believe, in the AFC in the Patriots. So they at least have that. And that was way back in week 1, but they had that. The Raiders fought hard against the Texans team. They gave the Texans, pretty much all they can handle last week, but it just wasn't enough. This Raiders team is destined to pick in the top 2. And it's going to be very interesting to see where the Raider franchise goes here in the next couple of months. I don't know where they go. To me, there feels like there's no direction there. There was semi-talks at one point that maybe this could be it for Max Crosby, where maybe they decide to trade him away and just start completely fresh, which I think could be a mistake, but not a mistake. You could probably get a lot for Crosby and give Crosby a chance to go somewhere and win, which I think is fair if you're the Raiders, especially if you're rebuilding. And if he wants to stay there, by all means. But it would be nice to see if Crosby can go out somewhere and become a star and on a team that has a chance to make some things happen. But the Raiders are at 32. At 31, the New York Football Giants. Look, the Giants are the Giants. And unfortunately, the Giants have lost some games this year where they've been close. They've been in the mix. They should have a better record. I've said it every episode. They should have a better record than what they have. They lost a tough one to the Vikings last week, 16-13. The Vikings, who are now on a nice winning streak, the Vikings have not lost in December. So the Vikings are cruising right along. They were 4-8 when I went to go see them play at the beginning of the month, and now they're sitting at 7-8. So they're making a run. It's just a little too late, and they've already been eliminated from the playoffs. But they're making a strong run despite the injuries that they've had, and still not somehow, some way, not getting Justin Jefferson involved, which that's got to change too, because that's going to start a lot of rumors in the offseason. We got with all that said about the Vikings, we got the Giants sitting at 31. A lot of questions there as well, where people are starting to think that, hey, if the Giants have the first pick, which they do, I think at the current time, based off of the way certain things have fallen, with that, the Giants would have a dilemma because they got Jackson Dart. If they haven't seen enough or like enough, Fernando Menendez, the Heisman Trophy winner, is sitting out there. The Giants have a lot of decisions to make, including finding a new head coach. Another team with an interesting offseason. At 30, the New York Football Jets, a team that I pray don't make a head coaching change. I still think they got the right guy. They just need the right pieces. Okay? Still another tough week for the Jets, but I just give them time. They got beat up by the Saints. It was rough. At 29, the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are a team that, they fought against this Falcons team, gave it a good effort, just wasn't enough. They're another team where there's a lot of questions. Who's going to be the quarterback of the team next year? It won't be. I don't think it'll be Jacoby Brissett. They'll be picking high, so that it just becomes very interesting. Will Kyler Murray be there? Will they trade him? We're preparing ourselves for a wild off season, so be ready. At 28, we've got the Tennessee Titans. The Titans have done themselves some justice here, winning the game or so. Nice win against Kansas City last week. Obviously, Kansas City without Pat Mahomes, but a win is a win. And, a confidence builder for a team that's still trying to figure out what the next steps are going to be. But Tennessee at 28. At 27, the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns went up against the Bills and gave the Bills everything they can handle. The Bills had to fight hard to beat the Cleveland Browns team led by Shedeur Sanders and Myles Garrett. And with the Browns being who they are as a team, maybe on the talent front, and still hanging in with a Buffalo Bills team, which people expect to potentially make a Super Bowl run, it's got to be a little worrisome if you're a Bills fan. But there's some bright spots on that Cleveland team. Fannin, the tight end, the young tight end, and they don't even have Njoku, who I got a feeling that might be another person that we look to be maybe on another team next season. This Cleveland team's good. Let me clarify that. This Cleveland team has good pieces, is what I really want to say. And so we're going to find out what that team looks like next season as well. But they are 3-12. At 26, the Washington Commanders. Obviously, they play here in the next hour or so against a Cowboys team where they want to try to get another win in a season where they had an 8-game losing streak, and maybe try to finish this thing at 6-11, and try to build a smidge of momentum despite all the injuries. And so if you're Dallas, you don't want this loss. That's going to have a whole bunch of questions swirling, especially with George Pickens becoming a free agent. Congratulations to Pickens on the Pro Bowl nod. It's just one of those things. At 25, the New Orleans Saints. Once again, I apologize to the New Orleans Saints on each show. They are on I believe, a 3-game winning streak. So come in and, maybe if they had a little bit more time, maybe the Saints would be shocking us a little bit more. They beat the Bucks. They beat the Panthers. They beat the Jets. They got the Titans this week. This could be another win. I mean, the way they're looking, they can finish the season 7-10. Now they're pushing themselves out from a potential quarterback, but maybe Tyler Shaw is the guy. 32 for 49, a touchdown, 308 yards. He's played well, and I laughed about it at first, but he's played well, and he could be their guy. Maybe they just need pieces around him. I don't know. We'll find out. At 24, the Cincinnati Bengals. Big win over Miami, beat it up on Miami. Just destroyed them 45-21. It was a close game at one point. And then Joe Burrow and Chase Brown decided just to go kookanutty. And so the Bengals, did what they needed to do. At 23, the Miami Dolphins. Bad loss. They bring in Quentin Ewers to be the starter. They benched Tua, made him the emergency quarterback. Skipped past Zach Wilson. A lot of people were like, well, Zach Wilson's probably like, well, wait a minute. Why don't I get a shot? But he's the backup, and they go with Ewers to see what they have on Ewers. But the Dolphins, they sound like they're going to keep Mike McDaniel at least one more year. So those Washington fans that thought he may be the OC next year for whatever reason, that's not happening. At 22, the Kansas City Chiefs. And they probably could be lower on this. But the Chiefs is 6-9, and it's shocking. But, with Mahomes being out, the organization has to really think about the rebuild. And maybe not a complete rebuild, but a restructure, I should say. We know that with the lateness of that injury, we may not see Pat Mahomes back to maybe like late September, maybe October, depending on how fast he can rehab from the injury. We may not have Travis Kelce there next year. Kansas City has a lot of questions that need to be answered in the upcoming offseason. At 21, the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons get a win over the Cardinals. Nice couple of weeks for the Falcons. They get a couple of wins. And then, trying to build some momentum themselves, and maybe they can finish the season 8-9 in a season where a lot of people, including myself, thought that they would be in a better place, and they're not. They're just not. So there it is, the bottom. Raiders, Giants, Jets, Cardinals, Titans, Browns, Commanders, Saints, Bengals, Dolphins, Chiefs, and at the top of the bottom, the Atlanta Falcons. And man, the bottom this week, all those teams officially eliminated from the playoffs. There's no hope for any of those teams in the playoffs. They're jockeying for draft position at this point, or trying to finish strong. And that's kind of where it is at this point. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's head to the outside looking in. Outside looking in. At number 20, the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys out of the playoffs after a couple of tough losses the last couple of weeks. They were still in the mix, had a chance to win the division, but these losses to the Vikings and to the Chargers did them in, and it was nothing they can really do after that. It just wasn't going to happen. So now they got to try to finish strong, maybe finish 8-1, to at least finish the season at 500. That'll be something that they will try to do today against the Washington Commanders. At number 19, the Minnesota Vikings, riding high, ladies and gentlemen. Riding high right now is this Minnesota Vikings team. Yes, they have already been eliminated from the playoffs, but they are finishing the season strong. The last loss was on the last Sunday of November against the Seahawks, but since then, 31-0 over the Commanders, 34-26 over the Cowboys. They beat the Vikings 16-13, and now they look today to eliminate the Lions from the playoffs. If they can pull off the upset today, which is going to be a tough task, but if they can pull it off today, they will eliminate the Lions from the playoffs. So we'll see. At 18, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not careful, they can eliminate themselves this weekend. And the Panthers have a tough task though, because they have to face the Seahawks. So everybody automatically think, hey, the Seahawks are going to win that game. The Buccaneers have the Dolphins, so a lot of people automatically think they're going to win that game, but the Buccaneers have not had good luck. So a loss by the Buccaneers and a Panthers win will give the Panthers the division. Now, a loss for the Panthers and a win by the Buccaneers set us up for an NFC South championship game next week for all the marbles. And that I have a feeling that's the way that will end up happening. At 17, the Baltimore Ravens, who are pretty much eliminated from the playoffs. They would need the Steelers to lose the next 2 weeks, and they would have to win the next 2 weeks. It's that simple. The Ravens have to deal with a Packers team that want to make the playoffs with a win. They're trying to get Jordan Love back. Looks like they're close to that. Lamar Jackson is on the, a little jacked up with his back, so we don't know if he'll play. So it'll be very interesting to see how that ends up playing out. At 16, the Indianapolis Colts. They fought hard. They offensively, they fought hard on Monday against the 49ers, but the 49ers put up 48 points. The Colts defense couldn't stop a running nose if they wanted to. They just couldn't stop anything. It was bad. But shout out to Phillip Rivers, man. Phillip Rivers has come off the streets, hasn't played football in 5 years. He goes 23 for 35, 2 touchdowns and a pick, 277 for the future Hall of Famer. And a lot of people was like, well, and include myself, like, well, why would you do this? You come back, your Hall of Fame, you got to wait another 5 years. I don't think he was going to get in this year. That it's very quarterback heavy for this one. You got Ben Roethlisberger next year. And I think if he does it this way, the only quarterback that he really would have competition with around that time frame, and it's if he retires, would be Aaron Rodgers. I got a feeling Aaron Rodgers may come back for one more year, no matter what happens this season. The Steelers want him back, and they seem to be in a good place. So we'll see. But Colts at 16, Panthers at 15. Great win over the Buccaneers, much needed win, and they're this close from winning the AF. So I keep saying the AFC South. I've been doing it all season on the show. The NFC South. They have a chance to win the NFC South, and if they do that, it'll be the first time somebody's won the division out of the Buccaneers, I believe, since 2020, 2019, I believe. And the Panthers haven't won it since Cam's Super Bowl season. So it's been a while. At 14, the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions need a win today to stay alive, and a Packers loss to stay alive in the mix. If it doesn't go that way and they lose, they're out. And the Packers will solidify their spot. And so the Packers, they're looking at, we just got to win and we're in. So the Lions need a Packers loss and a win. The Packers just need to win. They got to win one of the next 2 games to hold their spot in the playoffs. Now, things can happen in between, and if the Lions lose any of these games, they're out. The only other team that has a shot, and they really don't have a shot, would be the Panthers. Well, no, they do have a shot. If the Panthers win, I think one way or the other wouldn't matter, because even if the Panthers they have a win advantage over the Packers, but even if the Packers lost the last 2 games, they would be 9-7. So yeah, the Packers have a good shot to get in, but it's like where would they be? And it looks like they're going to be the 7th seed. and for a third straight year. It's crazy. But we'll see. The Lions still are in the mix. At 13, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are close. A win this week will give them now I flipped it, the AFC North, if they can win this week. So Pittsburgh will be looking to lock in and win the division, which they are so close to doing. If they can do it this weekend and get the win over the Browns, they will pretty much put themselves in the driver's seats for that. And if they can just get that dub, they will do what they need to do. Packers sitting at 12, tough loss for Green Bay against a Chicago Bears team that came back to win a game where even with Green Bay, Jordan Love down, obviously Michael Parsons out, injuries just piling up for the Packers. They did whatever they needed to do to get that win. And it was a hell of a pass by Caleb Williams to DJ Moore. Wasn't mad, couldn't be upset as a Packer enthusiast. What I saw was just a gutsy play in overtime to get the win. The Packers made too many mistakes in that game, tripped up on the onside kick. Then they fumbled when they were driving and had a chance to put the game away. And then Chicago took advantage of it, tied the game up, and then they're winning in overtime. So, tough week for the Packers, but they've got 2 weeks to try to rectify that. At number 11, the Houston Texans, who continue to ride high and are quietly becoming a problem in the AFC. If the Texans defense can hold up, they can go to the Super Bowl. They have a Super Bowl defense in Houston. Can it happen? We shall see. All right. Outside looking in, Cowboys, Vikings, Bucks, Ravens, Colts, Panthers, Lions, Steelers, Packers, and the Texans. There it is for the outside looking in. Now, the Vikings and the Cowboys are the only teams in this mix that are officially eliminated from the playoff. The Colts, I believe, are close to being at that point, but they're not there yet. They still can make it in, but a lot has to happen for the Colts. They have to win out. Texans are going to have to lose. Like, some things are going to have to happen in order for the Colts to get in. All right, so we are on the cusp of finishing this bad boy up, but now we're going to go ahead and head to the top 10 and let you know where things stand. I don't know why that is. All right. Let's head into it. We've got our top 10 heading into week 17. At number 10, the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles get the win over the Commanders, a game where the Commanders, like I said, despite everything the Commanders have been through, they were in that game. Could not pull it off in the end. Eagles did what they needed to do. They get the dub. They win the division. They're locked into the playoffs. At the minimum, they should be the 3 seed at the minimum. They still have an outside chance of the 1 seed, but a lot has to happen. Like, the Seahawks have to lose the next 2 games. The Eagles have to win. It's some things that have to happen, but the Eagles are not completely out of the 1 seed. At number 9, a team that's not out of the 1 seed themselves, and it's very tight in the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers, 11-4, in a season where they had to overcome adversity with the injury bug. The injury bug was whooping their behinds. But nevertheless, you can see right now Purdy is clicking on all cylinders. That team is not being talked about. And I have a really weird feeling that the San Francisco 49ers may be the NFC representative in the Super Bowl. I don't want to say that just yet. That's just the way this thing is starting to click, the way it's starting to feel. You better watch out for San Francisco. At number 8, the Chargers. They're 11-4. Another team that's cooking right along, making things happen. Jim Harbaugh's got them boys in the playoffs for back-to-back years. So, shout out to the Chargers. But can they do it in the playoffs? Can they make a run in the playoffs? We'll see. At number 7, the number 2 seed in the NFC, the Chicago Bears. Look, Chicago, I do have the Rams above them, but it's only because I just think overall, talent-wise, the Rams are just a little bit better. This Chicago team has proven me wrong throughout the season. They're having a great run right now. They've got a chance to go in and win the NFC North. I wanted to make sure I said the right division this time. So they still got a chance. If they can win this week, if Chicago wins this week, they're playing San Francisco. So it's a big matchup between these two teams. If they lose this week and the Packers win, that gives the Packers hope heading into that last game of the season. Now, the Bears face the Lions in the last game of the season, and the Packers face the Vikings. So the Packers' hopes of winning the division are still there because technically the Packers do have a pretty solid division record. I think they're 3-1 so far in the division. No, excuse me, 4-1 in the division. Their only loss being to the Bears. So they can finish up 5-1 if they beat the Vikings at the end of the season. So there's still a chance where it works out in the Packers' favors, but the Packers have to win the last two games. Chicago has to also lose the last two games. So that's where it gets tricky, but we'll see. Chicago has the inside track of winning that division. At number 6, the Rams, tough loss against Seattle. Great game against Seattle and the Rams last Thursday night was a classic. And Seattle get a big win. They're currently the number 1 seed in the NFC, the Seattle Seahawks. And it was a great game between NFC West rivals. And like I said, it's not over yet. There's a lot that's got to happen here in the next couple of weeks between the 49ers, the Rams, and the Seahawks. Who will be the 1 seed in the NFC? At number 5, the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo's tricky. You know, this should be their year, right? This should be the year. No Chiefs in sight. If you don't win it this year in your Buffalo, something's got to give, or at least get to the Super Bowl. Something's got to give. We'll see. At number 4, a team that is as hot as they can be, the Jacksonville Jaguars, beating our last week number 1, the Denver Broncos at Mile High. And yes, I still have the Broncos ahead of them, even with the win. But the Jaguars, just the best of the 11-4 teams right now. Like what I'm seeing from them, and Mr. Duval himself, Liam Cohen. So shout out to the Jaguars. I had the Jaguars making the playoffs as a 7 seed. They have exceeded that expectation right now. They're sitting at the 3 seed in the AFC. At number 3, the Broncos, tough loss, but I feel like the Broncos will bounce back tonight against the Chiefs. They should win that game, put a little pressure on the Patriots heading into Sunday. At number 2, the New England Patriots, 12-3, nice win over the Ravens, a little bit of a comeback victory over the Ravens, get the win, and pretty much put the Ravens in a really bad spot, but set the Patriots up to potentially win the AFC East for the first time in a couple of years. It's been Buffalo's division since 2019-ish, so this could be the year that the Patriots regain the division. And last but not least, and for the first time ever on our power rankings, the number 1 team in our power ranking, the Seattle Seahawks. You got to give this team credit. Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Coach Mike McDonald, and the crew have just done everything. That defense has been – it didn't look that great on Thursday because it was a shootout, but that defense, the team as a whole has done really well. They caught a lot of slack. Mike McDonald caught a lot of slack when he first got there because he removed a lot of the past victory stuff inside the building, and he wanted people to say, we got to focus on the new. And so shout out to the Seahawks, the number 1 seed in the NFC and number 1 in our power rankings heading into week 17. Well, there she blows. Our power rankings locked and loaded. Let's go ahead and finish this thing up strong, ladies and gentlemen, with the finale. All right, Kings of the Gridiron here for week 16. First, on the offensive side, Joe Burrow, 25 for 32, 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, a 146.5 QBR rating against the Miami Dolphins, winning 45-21. And unfortunately for the Bengals, a little too late this year. But, you still want to try to build on some things. And Joe Burrow, even though there was a couple moments a few weeks ago where people thinking like, oh, man, it might be over. Joe Burrow looks like he's checking out. But he comes in and have a game like this, maybe not so much. On the defensive side, the king of the gridiron, Jordan Poyer, 11 tackles, a half a sack, and an interception against the Browns to help get the Buffalo Bills a much-needed win to keep pace with the Patriots as we head into these last 2 weeks of the NFL season. Now, heading over to our MVP race, which you almost, saw earlier, a little earlier on, not on purpose, but it shouldn't have happened, but it happened. For the first time, I have Drake May at the first spot here in the MVP race, at least for this week. I still think that Matt Stafford wins this, but based off of last week's performance, I'm going to give Drake May the number one spot, Stafford at 2. Jared Goff for the first time, probably should have been in here a while ago. He's having a really good season, 32 touchdowns, only 5 picks on the year. He's been very efficient for 8-7 Lions team. At number 4, we got Myles Garrett, who's just 1 sack away from becoming the all-time single-season record holder for sacks. He's got 2 games to do it. Let's see if Myles Garrett can make it happen. And then at number 5, Jackson Smith, the Jigba, 1,600 yards receiving. He needs to get, I believe it's 272 yards receiving or 62 yards receiving between now and in the next 2 games in order to break that record or get to that 2,000 yard season for a receiver. Next, if the playoffs started today, at the 1 seed in the AFC, the Denver Broncos, still holding on tight despite the loss last week. Some tiebreakers and everything got them with the tiebreaker over New England, who's the number 2 seed. And if the playoffs started today, the number 2 seed Patriots would take on the number 7 seed Texans. That would be a really good game because I think that game could really go anyway, especially with the way the Texans defense has been playing. At 3, the Jacksonville Jaguars would take on the number 6 seed Buffalo Bills. The number 4 seed Pittsburgh Steelers would take on the number 5 seed San Diego, a.k.a. LA Chargers. In the NFC, the 1 seed Seattle Seahawks on the bye. The number 2 seed Chicago Bears will take on the number 7 seed Green Bay Packers in Chicago for a 3rd time this season. Don't know how I feel about that, but look, you just got to get in and see what happens from there. The number 3 seed Philadelphia Eagles will take on the number 6 seed San Francisco 49ers. And then the number 4 seed Carolina Panthers would take on the number 5 seed LA Rams. This would be a rematch from a couple weeks ago where the Panthers won at home against the Rams. So, Rams will probably be looking for a little revenge there, but it's getting really interesting. We got 2 weeks to figure it out. 10 spots have already been locked and loaded. There's still 4 spots that have not been sealed yet. So the Panthers spot, the Packers spot, the Steelers spot, and I believe the Texans spot. Those spots have not been solidified yet. So they still can interchange between now and the last 2 weeks. Now, heading over to your boys' record, solid week last week, 12-4. I'm trying to beat my record from last year. I had 171, so I got to find a way to squeak 22 wins in the next 2 weeks. I have to go crazy. In the pick'ems the next couple of weeks to try to beat last year's record or at the minimum tie last year's record. So 12-4, very happy about it. And we're going to see how things go this week in week 17. Now, for today, this is what I have it. Now, I could be generous in this Commanders game, but it is what it is. I got the Cowboys winning 30-22 over the Commanders. I got the Lions beating the Vikings 34-17. And then I have the Broncos beating the Chiefs 31-14. I'm also maybe generous giving the Chiefs 14 points. But I feel like that's how it goes today. But there's a part of me that thinks that one of those underdog teams, the Chiefs, the Vikings, and the Commanders, win. Don't know which one, but we shall see. As those are our Christmas Day games. And then to finish it up, here are my picks for the rest of the way in week 17. Of course, Cowboys, Lions, and Broncos. You got the Packers, which that's just, I need that. The Texans, the Steelers, the Patriots, the Saints, the Jags, the Bucks, the Seahawks, the Bengals, the Raiders over the Giants. That's a big one because that matchup determines who's going to pretty much have the number 1 pick at this point. At least that's the way it feels. And then you have the Bills, the 49ers, and then last but not least, I have the Rams. Those are my week 17 winners. All right, everybody, that's it. Episode 195 or 101 in the books here, week 17 of the NFL season. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And like I said, it's a beautiful Christmas. I hope everybody's having a phenomenal Christmas. I hope you all have a great Christmas. I hope you enjoy that time with your family, watching some football, watching some basketball. That also comes on today. So a lot of good sporting events happening today where you have to choose from on this glorious Christmas day. So, make sure you have an opportunity to love on your family and just really appreciate these moments. because you never know. You really just never know. That's the one thing I've learned in the last 5 years, man. It's just, you just never know. So appreciate those moments. Cherish those moments. Thank you all for tuning in for another episode of One on One. And we'll be back for next week for episode 196 here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network and, of course, on Bowie Television. And so until next time, everybody have a Merry, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Yeah, yeah. Something like that. Yeah, it was bad. I know. I'm sorry, y'all. Until next time, y'all, enjoy your holidays, and we will see you all next week on New Year's Day for our first episode in the year 2026. Until then, take care. Enjoy your holiday.
One. Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof.